So I want you to picture a scenario, and I think we've all been here. It's midnight. The house is completely quiet.
Oh, yeah. The classic midnight shift.
Right, exactly. You've finished your quote-unquote actual strategy work for the day, or, at least you tried to, but you are definitely not going to bed.
No, of course not.
Instead, you are just staring at the glow of your laptop and you're rewriting a social media post that your marketing manager drafted 2 days ago.
Ooh.
Or maybe you're jumping into a client email chain to clarify the scope of work again because the team just, I don't know, they missed the nuance. Or you're fixing a broken formula in a spreadsheet that someone else was totally supposed to own. Does that sound familiar?
It sounds painfully familiar. I mean, it's almost a rite of passage. And here is the kicker, the really insidious part about that midnight scenario. In that moment, it usually feels like heroism.
Yeah, it really does.
It feels like you were swooping in to save the day, keeping the standards high, making sure the ship doesn't hit the iceberg.
Right. It's that feeling of, thank God I was here to catch that, crisis averted.
Yeah.
But we have a really fascinating set of insights today to dig into. We're doing a deep dive into some material from Stella Pop.
Yes.
And it suggests this entire feeling of heroism is it's a complete lie. They argue that this behavior isn't saving the day at all. They call it dipping down.
Dipping down, yeah.
And the argument here and the mission of our deep dive today is to show that by doing this, by dipping down, you aren't being a hero. You are actively becoming the single biggest bottleneck in your own company.
And that is the absolute core conflict we are unpacking today. It's that really dangerous, messy transition from being a founder or a creator who has to do it all to becoming a true leader who actually empowers others.
Because it is a massive shift.
It's huge. The source material we're looking at today, specifically this article from Stella Pop called Leaders Stop Solving and Start Empowering Your Team. It's pretty brutal in its honesty.
It doesn't hold back.
Not at all. It says that when you dip down, you aren't just doing a little extra work to help out. You are literally torching your energy.
Torching your energy. That is such a visceral image. But I actually want to push back right at the start here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because I think a lot of listeners, and frankly myself included sometimes, we hear that and think, okay, sure, in a perfect world, I wouldn't be doing this at midnight.
Right. The perfect world argument.
Yeah. But if I don't fix the spreadsheet, the data is just wrong. And if I don't rewrite that social post, we look stupid in front of thousands of people.
Yeah.
So it's not just about managing my energy. It feels like it's about survival.
And that right there, that exact justification is where the trap lies. Let's look at the economics of it for a second.
Yeah.
Not just the emotion of wanting things to be perfect.
Okay, lay out the economics.
If you are the CEO or you're a senior leader, director, whatever, and you are spending your time rewriting copy or fixing Excel formulas, you are effectively acting as the highest paid intern in history.
Wow. Whew. Put that way, it really stings.
It should sting. Because you are paying a CEO's hourly rate for entry-level output. You aren't saving money by fixing it yourself. You're actually overpaying for that specific task by a factor of 10.
I hadn't thought about it like that.
And it gets worse.
Yeah.
You're also stealing time from the high-value work, the strategy, the vision, the big partnerships that literally only you can do.
So if the math is so terrible, why do we keep doing it? Because it's not like anyone actually wants to be working at midnight. Yeah.
Well, a lot of it comes down to what the source calls the founder's DNA.
The founder's DNA.
Yeah. If you build something from scratch, or even if you've just always been a really high performer who eventually got promoted, doing it all is just baked into your history. In the early days, you had to wear every single hat.
Right. You were the janitor, the CFO, the copywriter, and the tech support.
Exactly.
If you didn't do it, it just didn't get done. That was the reality of the situation.
And living in that reality creates a really powerful muscle memory. You get good at fixing things quickly. You get this immediate dopamine hit from crossing a tangible task off your to-do list.
Oh, absolutely. The checklist high.
But the Stella Pop article makes a really critical distinction here. As the organization grows, that exact doer mentality, the thing that made you successful, shifts from being your greatest asset to being your greatest liability.
Because the game has changed.
Exactly. The bigger the team gets, the more dangerous it is for you to be down in the weeds.
Because your job description changed, even if you never actually updated your LinkedIn profile to reflect it.
Precisely. Your job is no longer to do. It is to teach, to empower, and to lead. If you are constantly rescuing tasks, you are technically doing someone else's job. And if you're doing their job, it means nobody is doing yours.
Okay, let's dig into the psychology of this a bit more, because I think there's another layer here. We often justify dipping down by saying, well, it's just faster if I do it myself.
Oh, the classic excuse.
Right. And let's be real, in the moment, it is faster. It takes me maybe 5 minutes to fix a slide deck. It would take me 30 minutes to sit down and explain to the team member why the slide deck is wrong and how to fix it.
That is what they call the efficiency fallacy. And the source material hits this point really hard. Yes, in the next 5 minutes, it is technically faster to just fix it yourself. But that is short-term speed buying you long-term paralysis.
Long-term paralysis.
Because if you fix it today, you're going to have to fix it again next week and the week after that. It becomes infinite maintenance.
So it's a terrible trade-off. I'm buying 5 minutes of peace right now, but I'm basically selling hours of my future time.
Correct. And there are a few other psychological roots that the source identifies for why we dip down. One big one is a lack of trust.
That makes sense.
But here's the kicker. Stella Pop argues this is a you problem, not a them problem.
Wait, really? If I don't trust them to do it right, that's my fault.
Usually, yes. Because if you don't trust your team, it's very often because you haven't actually defined what done right even looks like. You've given vague instructions. Or, and this is the one that really hurts to admit, you might just be addicted to feeling useful.
The addiction to feeling useful? I really think we need to sit with that for a second.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It really is. Because when you solve a tangible problem, you immediately see the result. You think, I fixed the typo, the formula works, I am valuable. Strategy, on the other hand, is fuzzy. Vision is fuzzy. Fixing a typo is concrete.
Right. It turns into an identity crisis for the leader. If you stop doing the hands-on work, do you still have value?
Right.
The answer is yes, of course, you have much higher value, but it doesn't feel as immediate. When you dip down, you're essentially looking for a quick win, but you're blurring the line between actual leadership and just flat-out interference.
So let's talk about the fallout from all this interference. We mentioned the economic cost, the highest paid intern thing, but Stella Pop calls this consequence death by 1,000 tasks.
Yeah, death by 1,000 tasks.
What actually happens to the team culture when the boss acts as the chief fixer?
It absolutely destroys accountability. It creates a culture of learned helplessness across the board.
Learned helplessness.
The source describes this massive mindset shift in the team. They start thinking, well, I don't really need to stress about getting this draft 100% right, because if I mess it up, she's just going to catch it and rewrite it anyway.
Wow. So by trying to be the ultimate quality control for the company, you are actually training your team to be mediocre.
You are actively training them to wait for you. And think about what that does to your top performers, your A players, the ones who genuinely want ownership and want to grow. They will just stop stepping up because you keep stepping on their toes.
And eventually they leave, right?
They leave. They go somewhere where they're allowed to actually run with things. And then your B players, they just linger in the shallow end. They never develop the skills they need because you are constantly doing all the heavy lifting for them.
So as the leader, you literally become the ceiling for your own team's growth.
Exactly. And you become the main bottleneck for the entire business. While you are drowning in tasks that you should have delegated 6 months ago, the company basically can't move any faster than you can type.
Okay, that is the diagnosis. And honestly, it is pretty grim. But we promised a toolkit.
Yes, we did.
The source material provides some very specific, actionable strategies to break this cycle. And the core philosophy of this toolkit boils down to a 3-word mantra. Don't do, teach.
Don't do, teach. I love it. It sounds so simple, like a bumper sticker, but in practice, it is incredibly hard, mostly because of that friction we just talked about. Teaching takes time up front.
Exactly. So walk me through this realistically. It's 5:00 p.m., a deliverable lands on my desk, and it's just wrong.
Okay.
And I have a client meeting at 9:00 a.m. the next morning. Realistically, how do I teach in that moment without completely missing the deadline and losing the client?
That is the ultimate friction point. And look, let's be pragmatic. Sometimes if the house is actually burning down, you grab a bucket.
That's right. Emergency mode.
But the source argues that most of us are treating every single spark like it's a 5-alarm fire. And we shouldn't. The goal is to maximize the compound interest of teaching.
Compound interest.
Think about it. When you teach someone how to do a task, and more importantly, why that task matters in the grand scheme, they own it forever. It pays dividends every week after that.
Okay, so let's get into the how. Because I think a lot of leaders think they are teaching, but what they're actually doing is just giving really vague criticism.
Oh, absolutely. That happens all the time. The first tool in the Stella Pop toolkit is about defining great. Source points out that most leaders give feedback that sounds like, hey, can you make this pop more? Or it needs to be punchier.
Ugh, make it pop is the absolute bane of my existence. It means nothing.
It is completely useless feedback. All it does is force the employee to play a guessing game with what's inside your head. The fix for this is to provide clarity on 3 levels: visual, behavioral, and qualitative.
Give me an example of that.
The example Stella Pop gives is fantastic. Instead of telling your team, we need a confident brand voice, which is vague, you say something like, this headline needs to make a CFO say, tell me more, in 7 words or less.
Oh, that is so much better. It gives them a constraint, 7 words, it gives a target audience, the CFO, and it gives a specific reaction we want to elicit.
Exactly. It's a clear target. If you aren't getting the result you want from your team, the very first place you need to look is your own definition of the target. Did you actually tell them what success looks like, or did you just hope they possessed telepathy?
Right. Okay, so step 1 is defining great with extreme specifics. Step 2 is a method the source calls coach, don't catch. And I actually want to role play this with you because I need to hear the practical difference.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay, here is the scenario. I'm your head of marketing. I just brought you a campaign brief for a major new product launch. You read it, and honestly, it's really weak. It totally misses the core value proposition.
Okay, got it. Now the dipper version of me, the version with the bad habits, looks at it and says, yeah, this isn't going to work. The hook is way too soft. Here, open up the Google Doc. Let me just rewrite the opening paragraph for you really quick so you can see what I mean.
And then as the employee in that moment, I'm thinking, great, problem solved. The boss took care of it. I can go to lunch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I fixed the document, but I completely broke the employee. I taught you absolutely nothing.
Right.
Now here is the coach version. I look at the same week brief and I say, okay, I see where you're going with this, but I'm not really hearing our main differentiator come through clearly yet.
Yeah.
Walk me through why you chose this specific angle for this audience.
Oh, wow. That's entirely different. Because now I can't just nod and go to lunch. I have to defend my logic. I have to say, well, I thought because of X, Y, and Z.
And then as a coach, I can say, that's an interesting approach. But if we assume the customer is highly skeptical about our pricing, how does this angle address that concern?
You are basically forcing me to simulate the strategy meeting inside my own head.
Exactly. I am not fixing the work. I am fixing the thinking process behind the work. If I fix your brief, I have a better brief for exactly 1 day. If I fix your thinking process, I have a better marketing director for life.
That is incredibly powerful. But it requires so much patience. You have to be willing to just sit on your hands and ask questions instead of grabbing the keyboard and typing.
You literally have to physically resist the urge to touch the keyboard. That is the discipline of leadership.
Okay, let's move to the next tool they mention. Repeatable playbooks. Now, I have to be honest, whenever I hear the word playbooks, I instantly think of those giant, dusty binders of standard operating procedures that nobody ever actually reads. Is that what they mean?
No, not at all. And the distinction here is vital. A standard checklist is purely linear. It says, do step 1, then do step 2.
Right.
That's for robots. A playbook, in this context, is for decision-making. It's for pilots. A playbook shouldn't just say what to do.
Yeah.
It should specifically say what to do when things go wrong.
Okay, give me a concrete example of that.
Let's take client management. A standard checklist says, send the weekly data report on Friday at noon.
It's simple enough.
But a playbook says, if the client replies and pushes back on the data in the report, here are the 3 approved ways to handle that objection without needing to call me.
I see. It's preloading the decision-making process.
Exactly. It defines the boundaries for them. It says, here's what wrong looks like, so avoid doing that. Here is the tone we want to use. And here's exactly the threshold for when you actually should escalate this to me.
That when to escalate part is huge, because otherwise, if they're unsure, they will just escalate every single tiny issue to you just to be safe.
As the source brilliantly puts it, process beats panic. If you find yourself giving the exact same piece of feedback on the same type of work more than twice, you don't have a team problem. You have a process failure. You need a playbook for that scenario.
Okay, so we have clear definitions of great. We have the coach don't catch mindset, and we have playbooks for decision logic. But I really want to get to the power phrases.
Yes, the scripts.
Because sometimes in the heat of the moment, when the pressure is really on, I just don't know what words to use to stop myself from taking over. I need a script to fall back on.
Yes, having a script is crucial because it helps break that deeply ingrained neural pathway of, I'll just do it. We need to replace that instinct with phrases that firmly put the ball back in their court.
Let's run through a few of these. Say I'm the employee coming to you with a problem that I should probably be able to solve myself. What do you say?
You say, walk me through how you've approached this so far. Or even better, my personal favorite. What would you do next if I weren't here right now?
Oh, what would you do next if I weren't here? That is a high-stakes question. It forces them to instantly roleplay being the boss.
It does. And more importantly, it signals deep trust. It says to them, I fully believe you already have the answer. It stops them from using you as a crutch.
What if the work they bring you is close, but it's just not quite there? It's so tempting in that moment to just polish it up for them.
Resist the polish. Instead, you say, this isn't quite right yet, but I know you can get it there. You want to talk it through, or what part of this process still feels a little fuzzy to you?
It's collaborative, sure, but the ownership entirely stays on them. You aren't taking the monkey off their back. You're just helping them adjust the backpack.
Exactly. And the ultimate power phrase to use when they are wobbling on making a decision, I trust you to make the call here.
Boom. That is absolutely terrifying for a control freak, by the way.
Oh, it is. But that terror, that is exactly where the growth happens. If you never let them make a call, they will never learn to trust their own judgment.
I want to play devil's advocate for a minute, though, because I know our listeners, I know what some of them are thinking right now.
What are they thinking?
They're thinking, I tried this, I tried delegating, I tried the coaching questions, and it was a total disaster. The work was bad, the client got mad, and I had to step in and fix it anyway. What do we do if the team just doesn't get it?
It is a totally valid fear. And Stella Pop addresses this specifically in their troubleshooting phase. Because if it's not working, you have to run a diagnostic. You can't just throw your hands up in the air and say, well, nobody wants to work anymore.
So how do we actually diagnose the failure?
First, you check expectations. Was the playbook actually clear to them, or was it just clear in your own head? Did you articulate the why behind the task, or did you just dictate the what?
Okay, so first, check the transmission of the message.
Right. Second, check for fear. Is there true psychological safety on your team? Are they afraid that if they make a mistake, you're going to blow up at them?
Because if they're scared, they'll just freeze.
Exactly. They will freeze and wait for explicitly safe instructions. But the third diagnostic is the hardest one to face. You have to check for the gap between skill and will.
Break that down for me. Skill versus will.
Look at it this way. If an employee asks you the exact same question 3 times, that is a will problem. They aren't paying attention, or they just don't care enough to internalize the answer you gave them.
Right.
But if they ask you 3 different questions, and those questions are getting more complex each time, that is a skill gap. You can absolutely close a skill gap with coaching and time. You usually cannot close a will gap.
That is such a crucial distinction. Because if it is a will problem, no amount of clever coaching questions or playbooks will fix it.
Exactly. And that leads to the hard truth of leadership. Sometimes they just aren't the right people. Not everyone is meant to grow with the company.
Yeah.
As the source points out, if you have taught clearly, you've provided the playbook, you've ensured a safe environment to fail, and you are still stepping in to fix the exact same things, it might be time for a talent upgrade.
That is tough to hear, but it's fair. You simply can't scale a business on the backs of people who fundamentally refuse to take ownership.
Leadership is ultimately a game of elevation, not insertion. The higher you go in the company, the more you have to consciously resist the urge to insert yourself back into the daily work. If you're doing the work, it's not leading, it's just babysitting.
Elevation, not insertion. Now that is the bumper sticker we need.
It really is. The ultimate goal here is to build a machine that works flawlessly without your fingerprints on every single detail.
Right.
That is the ultimate test of a leader. If you got hit by a bus tomorrow, would the business collapse or would it keep running?
Right.
If it collapses without you, you haven't built a resilient team. You've just built a highly dependent helper network.
You know, as we wrap this deep dive up, there was one metaphor at the very end of the source material that really stuck with me. It perfectly captures this whole transition. It's the difference between being a firefighter and being a fire starter.
Yes, this is the ultimate shift in identity that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Most founders start their journey as firefighters.
They have to.
Right. You charge into the chaos, you put out the flames, you solve the immediate crisis. It's high adrenaline work, and frankly, it feels really good. You get to be the hero every day.
But you cannot build a long-term future just by running around putting out fires. Eventually, you're just standing exhausted in a pile of ashes.
Exactly. Your long-term job, your real job, is to become the fire starter. You need to be the one sparking new ideas, lighting the path for others, and igniting your team's potential. You don't scale a company by doing more things yourself. You scale it by enabling more people to do great things.
That is the mission. So here's a challenge for you listening right now. The very next time you feel that familiar instinct, that itch to just grab the mouse and say, move over, I'll just do it myself, I want you to physically pause.
Take a breath.
Take a breath. And ask yourself one simple question. What would a great leader do right now?
And then do that.
Exactly.
It might be asking a coaching question. It might be pointing them back to the playbook. It might just be looking at them and saying, I trust you. But it definitely isn't staying up to rewrite that post at midnight.
Absolutely not. Put down the spreadsheet, step away from the keyboard, and let your team rise to the occasion. And think about this. What if the task you are most proud of fixing today is the exact same task that is holding your company back tomorrow? That's how you escape the doer trap. Thanks for diving into this with us today. Now go start some fires the good kind. We will see you on the next deep dive.